Open one eye, darkness. Open the other one with hope for light. Disappointment again, darkness. One asks himself, when did the sanity vanish? Imagine doing nothing, and doing nothing in darkness. Furthermore, you do it in pain, excruciating pain, and you are thirsty and hungry. How would you find that nothing? Neither animals nor humans are meant to be isolated in darkness. Light regulates important bodily functions. Without it, we lose sense of time and even space. Griffith was so drained from being physically cut, pierced and sliced that the only thing that the body would want is to sleep and heal. Though it cannot, the hormonal production is disrupted in the cell's murk. Griffith drifts off and comes back. It is not clear anymore what he truly perceives and what is a hallucination. Insomnia and sleep paralysis set in. Paranoia and fear overcome the body. When the brain is drained, it thinks of the most basic of thoughts. It becomes emotional. Griffith could only think of guts. Griffith couldn't control him. Rather, guts had control over him. Griffith often became emotional around him. Guts pushed him in this abyss. Malice, friendship, jealousy. The only light in the darkness, it is him. Guts. In the dark cell, Griffith can in no way, shape or form think rationally. Deep desires come to the surface. It becomes apparent that Griffith is fascinated with Guts to such an extent that even his dream, acquiring a castle, is being overshadowed. Why was Guts so interesting to Griffith? Guts was enigmatic, which in and of itself is attractive to the curious human mind, but also showed admirable qualities of stoic character and resilience in the face of extreme adversity. A leader who is burdened by the heaviest of tasks in any group can easily become attached to the second in command, who exhibits traits that are reassuring and reliable, as happened between Griffith and Guts. Griffith could rely on Guts for any task, but their relationship went even deeper than that, where Griffith came to be seriously attached to Guts as they developed a friendship. They were very much alike in the sense that they were both loners, profound in character, and most oftenly misunderstood. As Michel de Montaigne puts it, friendship of the highest quality entails the friends to be exclusive, to have soul affinity, and to be able to melt into one another, and become doppelgangers or clones of each other. Concerning the last point, that is why Guts left the Band of the Hawk. He was on his way to truly come near Griffith's level, and thus be able to call him a friend. Unfortunately, Griffith lacked the quality that he so much admired in Guts: stoicism. In the event of Guts' departure, Griffith couldn't manage his desire for control and possession. Griffith, laying in darkness, sees at one point the demonous creature of the other world, which calls him a prince and a kinsman. That is the point when we get to see how someone becomes an apostle. The person has to be at his lowest in order to have the opportunity to call upon an eclipse. And the interesting thing is that it is predestined. Griffith's behelit was long gone in the sewers at this point, but found itself back to him later. The devilish part about the eclipse and the behelits is that you will always have the chance to sacrifice your closest ones, though you will have to make that decision under pressure of experienced pain, disappointment, anger, and fear. Humans rarely make wise decisions under such circumstances. The behelit's deal is the deal of the devil. It is cunningly being proposed in a time of need when you can't really reject it. On the outside, Griffith had been heavily tortured. The extreme psychological harm directly correlates to the major physiological damage that has been done. Tendons were severely impaired, the tongue and the skin were removed. All types of torture methods were used to inflict great pain but keep the prisoner alive. By the torturer's words, we could judge that he is experienced and well informed on the topic of physical torment. Having all this knowledge of the human body, the torturer would be skilled enough to be a doctor, which was actually the case with medieval executioners. Although skilled, they didn't want such a profession, so it was often inherited or bestowed onto people. Griffith's torturer seems to be more of an outcast who found a gruesome hobby. He exhibits disturbing sadistic interest and a lack of empathy. The King of Midland made sure to deplete Griffith's psychological and physical strength to the fullest after the treason he had done. That's why he was put in the deepest of dungeons and was tortured for a year by one of the more skilled and probably the most skilled of the king's torturers. To top it all off, a similar helmet to Griffith's original was put on his head, in order to mock his image of the unreachable hawk, and through its tight metal, to strangle the airflow and completely exhaust the once admirable and undefeated Griffith. At the end of the day, imagine what relief it would be to hear that you will be granted a second chance. Would you also not take it? After living in hell for 1 year, alone, in the dark and scared. Griffith was done with being humiliated and was strong and selfish enough to accept the deal of the Eclipse. The God Hands were talking to a child, a wounded child. There was no future for Griffith with these scars, so he could only look back to when he was a child, and all that death that came later. At this very moment, he became a prisoner of the past and had to decide: will the deaths of all these people that trusted their will to me be in vain? Will my comrades now not forgive their sacrifice? Will they not understand the difficult decision of a great leader? And if it all had been destiny, why reject it now? The child in Griffith was thinking, and it made its choice. There is more to human suffering and sacrifice in this world, and he, Griffith, was the one prophet to let something greater unfold. In the end, that is the mind of an individual which life's essence has almost been completely drained. Offer that man a devilishly good deal and see what happens.